So this was sent a while ago. Okay, there's two screenshots, but I also mentioned the Canadian, well, CSIS, the Canadian Security and Intelligence Services. Uh, so because I put those words in the text, I often notice patterns when you put things like RCMP or CSIS. Even if you put screenshots, which are usually very, very quick and not like a video or a long video, and your internet is fine, and you can confirm because sometimes this doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with the internet, but streaming for a bit will show that there's still a different algorithm from mentioning certain topics. They are more and more screening even screenshots, and that takes people looking at it, right? Not a computer, so it takes more time. And I've mentioned this last year that it looked like I was noticing those patterns that Facebook. I don't use a lot of other things, so I don't know about other things, but I know that Facebook had slowed down things. And for me, a few years ago, Facebook, it doesn't do this for everybody, but it made it that I couldn't put more than one video per post. And there were even times I couldn't put two screenshots per post. This guy's a pretty cool guy. The way he talks about what fear is, which is actually not something you can overcome, but it's something that you get better at deciding how to respond to when you experience it. So, and that's what really courage is. So see, like, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. So it is I believe the term CSIS. And here I'm criticizing this organization that I emailed from finding their email on their YouTube channel, because that's how I heard of them. And it's a greenwashing thing, and it's Canadian, and it mentions debate. They promote debate about climate, but it's not true. They just say this, and then people want to believe that's my source of climate information now. And because they make fun of people like Greta, for example, that appeals to rednecks, right? Mocking others is a way that people stay stupid. Rednecks become more and more stupid and pass it on to their kids. And Greta's parents aren't rednecks, which is why she's an important person. Now, there is some interesting video about Greta recently that I haven't found an explanation for. And again, I'm expecting to eventually lose Greta as a role model. I've always known this because of HSD. And it could be, her hormones right now and her fame get to her, and suddenly, the reality of priorities gets changed in her head. Like, she's not, a perfect godlike being. She's just somebody who came from a family that allowed her to apply her common sense at a time where, she was persistent about it and became well known to send a message that is still too little too late and still lacks the crucial, biggest solution that must be applied to every type of problem you can think about, which is to minimize our reproduction. Not kill people or allow people to get born who will die when the elites are actually not caring because they are making plans that the status quo, business as usual, must continue because we're financing things where we think we'll be safe, which of course they're desperate in their thinking they'll be safe, but they won't be. The only way they would be safe is to become part of the norm, in the sense that they will now have to go through hardships. But if they think they won't go through hardships, and they'll pay people to protect them wherever that may be, I already explained various scenarios where that won't work, and in a way they'll get their just punishment, but it's still, in the meantime, the entire biosphere, because of their egocentrism, these elites that can afford their attempts at protecting mostly themselves, is not going to work. And that's an interesting ending to the movie Don't Look Up, right? But it's still, it's still it doesn't make it acceptable that they get that just punishment later, that their plans to escape to another place while they greenwash like these guys are doing, uh, you know, it results in not just the death of a lot of innocent people, including children, but in crime against the concept of life on this planet, you know, and and in a way, I mean, it makes them the biggest villains of our time, even because it's the concept of life, not just crimes against humanity, but life. So right now, like I notice MSN, the news, compared to, let's say, a Democracy Now! or some other sources. So the Doomsday Clock just came to 90 seconds to the end. Okay, and I guess I'm doing something similar to this with my HSD levels that I'm increasing, and it could be this year that it comes close to 100%. But I mean, I can never reach 100% with something where data is not possible to bring at 100%, and I should start putting a more or less variant to it, just to show that, you know, there's no way I can be certain about this. And but I can tell you that when I listen to the scientists that talk about why they moved up the Doomsday Clock, and when I see what the news wants to cover or not about it, and when they cover something like MSN, they'll say at the end, another scientist that criticized those scientists. You know, like the denial is very much that, you know, CSIS gets paid to do stuff like this, whether they want to say it falls under their criteria or not. And same thing with RCMP. If I give a complaint to RCMP, hey, this guy, you know, backed up over a crosswalk and you're not supposed to do that, and they never give tickets for that, even if they check in with dispatch that, yeah, you can give a ticket for that, they won't do it because they're so used to giving tickets for speeding and other things, because that's the cultural pattern. Well, the cultural pattern is to criticize accurate science more than promote the knowledge of what that accurate science is and what to do about it. So of course you're failed as a species. Of course, when I see with more data as things get worse, how you respond, not just your media, but that how many people subscribe to Climate Discussion Nexus and how many people view these things, it tells me how much HSD there is and how much you guys are doomed. And I'll write a note when this works. Now, every time I write something that, let's say I would put RCMP, I should totally copy and paste, because something's going to screw up and I'll have to write that text again. And like the screenshots are in my computer, but still, you know, like there's so much you do to help your own self-sabotage, but you don't even do it consciously. It's like, it's automaton HSD stuff. So the atomic energy or Doomsday Clock group of scientists, they are not that aware of the true human condition, because they'd be mentioning things about this. They'd be mentioning, you know, that we don't show signs of evolution as a species, and yet we still keep creating technologies for an irresponsible species like us to further abuse against each other in the biosphere. You know, like they don't talk in this way as if they're, you know, like they got the big picture of things. I mean, it's nice what they're doing, but they're still, you know, it's really 3 seconds, really, not 90 seconds.